Castrol, manufacturers of a can of the best, proudly present highlights of the Castrol Baberspan 1000.
One of the oldest events on the South African motorsport calendar produces an annual trek to the Western Transvaal for the off-road racing fraternity. The Castrol Baberspan is one of the premier events counting towards the South African Off-Road Championship. This year, the Baberspan took on special significance. It was the first race in a new marathon challenge format. Events with a minimum distance of 1,000 kilometers run alongside sprint series races with a maximum distance of 350 kilometers. Upgrading the Baberspan to a 1,000-kilometer race presented the organizers with a few poses.
Yeah, we've made a couple of changes from last year's route. We've divided from last year's route in the respect that we brought in new sections. We've taken some of the old sections out. Now, the unfortunate side, we didn't have rain on the route itself. That grass is tall, so competitors should be on the lookout for that.
The sprint section, to determine start positions for Racing Section 2, produced a surprise. Springbok Bucks Carolyn decided to come out of retirement for a one-off outing in the lubrication equipment Raceco, and a light-hearted approach saw him enter under the pseudonym of Fido Delapano.
My brother's overseas, so I decided I'd come and race the car. They put me under a little bit of pressure, and I decided that to come, I'm not making a comeback or anything like that. I decided to come and have some fun. You know, some of these guys are taking this thing a bit serious, and after a little bit of a run-in last year, I just decided that it's about time that the guys realized that this is a fun sport.
It wasn't much fun for Harry Roscoe in the Protea playing card Raceco. A gearbox problem plagued him earlier on, and it led to an early role as spectator come helper for other teams for the man known as Rocket. Linton Draper and Mike Pretorius in the spectacular Draper Plant Hire Isuzu were another top team destined for an early trip home.
We'd stripped the centre portion of our dip, and so what we did was we just limped all the way back in again, and when we got here to the pits, the gearbox also gave in on us as well, so we've had to withdraw from the race.
Gussie Coetzee and Richard Leek were the first of the Buckies in the factory Toyota Hilux. After a comfortable run on the first day, it was not to be a happy event for the pair, with mechanical problems putting paid to their race on day 2. Fido Delapano, also known as Bucks Carolyn, surprised even himself by taking pole position, with space frame cars dominating the top 10 positions. 7 of the top 10 were space frames, with the other 3 places going to Coetzee and Leek and a pair of quad races. Roof of Africa winner Patrick Andrews was first away among the bike contingent on day 1. Conditions at the start indicated a dry and dusty outing for the bikers over the short 70-kilometer sprint. Andrews was followed by Alfie Cox on the Castrol Honda. The Castrol Baberspan is traditionally an ultra-fast event, and Andrews prefers the tighter courses.
It's a different story at Baberspan now. It's flat open, fast. You know, sometimes we have to live with it, but if I had a choice, I prefer the tight, technical stuff.
Out on the course, there was a surprise for the riders. A sudden rainstorm turned sections of the route into a mud bath. Alfie Cox is a rider for all seasons, but loves wet conditions. And Willie Ireland on the Super Tyre Suzuki was as spectacular as ever, with the pair setting the day's fastest times. A great battle was expected to develop in the 500 category between the 2 big men in the class. Errol Dalton is one of the most consistent performers around on the Lesotho office equipment Kawasaki, with Springbok Jeremy Davies quickly coming to terms with a change of machinery on the Castrol Honda 600. The 4-stroke Honda has a distinctive sound to it, and you can hear Davies coming and going for kilometers. Richard Manning was first home in the 200 class, but it was unrealistic to expect the smaller capacity machines to seriously challenge the 250s and 500s.
We have had the one national where 200 is won, where I won the desert race in '89, but I think that's just a one-off. you know. Unless the big bikes don't, unless they have a problem, you won't catch them.
Only 18 seconds separated the first 4 riders after racing section 1. It augured well for the race, but the new Castrol Baberspan format meant a complete rethink where tactics were concerned.
The first 500, you're just going to, you know, have a good ride, save the motorcycle, and get there near the front, you know, so that the last day, you know, everything normally changes which in the last day on 1,000 Ks, because it is an extra 500 kilometers, the bodies are tired, and basically if you're fit, you should be able to come out up top.
At the end of the day, there's always a hive of activity in the pits as machines are restored to full health before being impounded for the night. But there's also plenty of time for relaxation. Competitors also often need to be restored to full health before the next day. But off-road racing produces an atmosphere and camaraderie that few other branches of motorsport can match.
Philip, are you missing it?
Yeah, I'm missing it. Now you can stay away for so many months and then you must crawl back, jy weet, en sê, nee, dis die lekkerste.
Wanneer kom jy terug?
Rory, nee, later in die jaar. I can't stay away longer, really. I've just realized that.
You miss all your friends?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at them. I mean, how could you do without these people?
The social side of off-road racing is an integral part of the sport, but there are also races to be won. When the flag drops, the play stops, and it's down to the serious business of motor racing. Fido Delapano led the field away on racing section 2, with a tense-looking Rob Walk, the second car under starter's orders. For national champion Richard Schilling, a win at Baberspan was important.
It's not going to be easy, it's never easy. Obviously we've got a good chance and we're going to go for it.
You've never won this event?
No, and it's one of the very first events I did about 20 years ago, so it's about time that I did something on this event. Going to give it a go, definitely.
It was to be an unhappy event for Schilling and Ashley Thorne, with intrepid local Vickers van Deerventer in the thick of battle in the car category on the Yamaha Banshee Quad Racer. The Quad Racer category is an experimental class in off-road racing. The quad racers take a pounding as they mix it with the high-tech space frames and buckies, but cannot score championship points, and the only honours open to them are in the experimental Class 14. Therein lies a tale. It did not take too long for matters to get a little crowded out on the course. Niels Eriksson and Johnny Walker disputed ownership of a bridge with Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne, with a gaggle of cars queuing up behind. Schilling and Thorne were headed for early retirement with a broken gearbox, but there were times when the Western Transvaal countryside resembled Piccadilly Circus. Navigation on off-road events is always a problem for the single-seat drivers. Rob Walk had dropped back in the early stages in the Superpave Raceco. After picking up problems on racing section 1, Klaus Degener and Piet Swanepoel also had ground to make up in the BP Chenoweth. The Chenoweth has been rebuilt after a crash in the opening event of the year at the 5FM Sun City 400.
The roll that we had in the motocross track did a lot of damage. The car fell badly on its left-hand side and caused quite a lot of damage. We had to rebuild the car completely on the left side. And we decided then that it was time to rebuild the whole car. And so it's really like a new car here. And we're hoping it's going to go well.
The Bucky Brigade wasn't going to bother with anything as mundane as a bridge across a stretch of water. R.P. Reinecker and Lucas Dreher's Toyota Land Cruiser led the Toyota Hilux of Alf van Veeren and Piet Pelser and Erik Skuman's Quad Racer. Wiley Harrington and Thilo von Westernhagen should have been part of the battle.
You know, there's no dust today, so we could really roll down the straights, just going flat out down the straight in fourth gear. And all of a sudden, it just started steering into the mealies. we had about a small steering failure, and it just started rolling and went over and over and over again for about 100 meters. So I just took off the guy's millies a bit early.
The quad racers are a breed apart, but Eric Skuman gave himself a fright when he arrived at the hard-to-spot stretch of water at a rapid rate of knots. Fido de Lapano was a little more circumspect in the lubrication equipment race go. The tricky water splash caught out Nordus Alberts and Peter Mathieu. They charged ahead like a battleship under full steam.
Castrol, manufacturers of a